It is here, the moment we all been waiting for. Preseason, Henry. But really, the Bo Nix era kicks off today in Broncos Country. 30-minute countdown till we get to see Jarrett Stidham start, then Bo Nix second, and then Zach Wilson round it out. And Henry, not just because it's the Bo Nix era, I think is this an exciting preseason for the Broncos, but you could make the case that this is the most intriguing set of quarterbacks that a team is going to be rolling out in preseason in forever. Like, just think about how stoked Broncos Country got for Kyle Sloter.
Ooh.
Now, instead of Kyle Sloter, it's Zach Wilson.
Wait,
like,
just for
it's
the
a guy that
Broncos?
people are pumped for.
Or across the league?
I don't know. I
'Cause I think-
haven't looked at three deep across the league for a long time.
I'm just trying to think back
Broncos at
of
least.
the games that I've watched. The Patriots with Drake May and Joe Milton.
Well, you love Joe
and
Milton.
I can't remember. I don't think Jacoby Brissett. Maybe Jacoby Brissett did start the game.
Jacoby Brissett might be equivalent to a Jarrett Stidham.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think with Joe Milton and Drake May, you probably nationally get more intrigue. But yeah, I mean,
The difference is two
Broncos-wise-
number one picks or two first-round picks with
True.
Bo Nix and Zach Wilson.
True, but I mean, you also have like the number three overall pick.
Three overall
pick.
Hey,
along
Zach
with Joe
Wilson,
Milton, who's
number
better.
2 overall pick.
True, back in the day, but we know what he is.
So, Henry, let's break down. We're going to do this show a couple of different ways leading you up to kickoff. We're going to first start with quarterbacks, what to expect from them, what we want to see. And I have an interesting question that I want to phrase to you at the end of this conversation and for Broncos Country as well. And then we want to tell you about the guys you should look for and not the Quinn Miners of the world, the guys you should be looking for in the second half, because everyone watching knows the stars of the Broncos, but who else should you be watching here? But let's start off with these quarterbacks, and let's start with Jarrett Stidham because he's getting the first snaps with the Broncos first team and how this game is going to break down. Sean's broken this game up into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1, essentially the starters. Phase 2, the backups. And then phase 3, kind of everyone else. And how it's going to work with the quarterbacks is Jarrett Stidham's getting the start, and he's going to play about 16, well, I should say phase 1 is about 16 to 18 reps. But he might sneak Bo Nix into the back of phase 1 and then also play him in phase 2 if the reps work out. Henry, I think if we see Jarrett Stidham get 12 to 14 reps, he's going to slide Bo Nix in there for one full series with the starters to just see what he can do. So if Jarrett Stidham's out, it doesn't mean the rest of the starters are out. So expect 12 to 18 snaps for Jarrett Stidham, 16 to 18 snaps with the starters. Then they'll hit Bo Nix for probably roughly around that same amount, and then you'll see Zach Wilson the rest of the game. But let's start with Jarrett Stidham. What do you want to see from him today?
I mean, for him, it's just about completion percentage. Like, it just don't let the ball hit the ground, hit all your old passes, and that's a good day. You know, if he throws, I think if any of these quarterbacks, I guess Zach Wilson's kind of out of it, but either of the two big quarterbacks throw an interception, all of a sudden the sky is kind of falling on their chances to be the starter.
Oh, yeah.
But Jarrett Stidham in particular, like, just make your old passes, get the ball out quick, and he'll be good.
Okay, so I think what you just answered is like what maybe the coaches want to see from Stidham and maybe what Stidham goes into this game wanting to see. What I want to see from Jarrett Stidham is be risky. Take some shots. Make big plays.
He wants
because,
the job, though.
Yeah, but I'm not saying what he should do in order to win this job. I'm saying what, from a Broncos perspective, like from a fan's perspective, what I would want to see. Because right now, Jarrett Stidham, I mean, starting this preseason game, kind of shows maybe Sean has given him the little edge in this competition. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I think it shows that Stidham has a chance to win this job still.
Oh, definitely.
And if Jarrett Stidham is going to be the starter week 1 against Seattle, I don't want it to be check down, 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 check. No, I don't want that. I want to see some shots. I want to see some big plays. Now, we started to see Stidham last week open it up a little bit, but that's what I would want to see from Stidham. I think your answer is more realistic of what we're gonna see. He's gonna try to go 8 for 10 for 52 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, or even no touchdowns, no picks. So, but that's what I want to see from Stidham. Now, let me ask you this question about Bo Nix. What do you want to see from Bo Nix today?
Just don't look lost. I think that's what it comes down to. Again, like no turnovers. All of a sudden, if Bo throws a pick today, then to me, we've gotten to the point where the quarterback competition is only about the 2 games. Everything else is even enough that this is kind of all that matters.
No pressure,
And
kid.
so if you make any mistakes, then that's going to be a significant hit to his chances. But again, it's don't get happy feet. Don't rush things. Just stand back in the pocket, make good decisions. Because as long as he doesn't look panicked, I'm going to be just fine with almost anything that could happen.
I like that. I like that a lot. Exactly that. And if you're talking about numbers, this is, I think, where you want to see the completion percentage for Bo. Be 7 out of 10, be 8 out of 10, be extremely efficient with it. And then that would show, for the most part, if you're talking about a high completion percentage, likely that shows exactly what you're talking about. Just composure. We saw him last week a couple of times change plays at the line of scrimmage or identify a blitzer. I would love to see that. That would be huge. What you don't want to see is something that we saw a lot of last week when Bo was under center and working with the offense, where they had to rehuddle. Many times. You did not really see that with Jarrett Stidham. You really didn't see it with Zach Wilson. If Sean has to call a single timeout because they can't break the huddle or understand what's going on at the line, or multiple timeouts, that's not what you want to see. Now, I don't expect that. I think they were doing a lot of that last week, just as very precautionary, making sure everything's 100% right. When you get to the line of scrimmage in a game, not everything has to be 100% right for you to go on with that play. But I think you completely nailed it there. Now, if Bo wants to run away with this job today, connect on a deep pass, also be efficient, touchdown, certainly no interceptions. This is a guy that threw 45 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in college last year. He does not throw interceptions. Now, the speed of the game is a lot faster. He says that it slowed down for him, and let's see that. Let's see it. If he can look like his college self, man, that'll be a hell of a start for his first game. And then Zach Wilson, who's probably going to play a lot of this game. Maybe not the entire second half. My guess is they'll bring Bo out to start the second half just to see how he responds to coming out at a halftime and dealing with that break. We're going to see Zach Wilson for a quarter and a half. What do you want to see from him?
I guess the big answer is I just don't really care. Wow. I mean, you're down to 2 starting quarterbacks. If he has a terrible day, he has a terrible day. Again, I think he's probably just going to be your practice squad quarterback regardless of what happens. Obviously, you'd like to see things go well, but, if I got to give, a total of 10 points across those 3 quarterbacks, 5-5 or 6-4, it's still 0 to Zach Wilson just because it's like, I mean, I doubt what he does even matters. I think for Zach, again, you want to see him get hot. You want to see him make plays outside the pocket, hit guys downfield. That's what he's best at. But I don't think there's much reason to believe he'll get through this game without making some sort of turnover-worthy throw. So, I mean, maybe you're hoping that when he makes that throw that it's dropped even, that the defense doesn't capitalize. I'm not too worried about this because he's basically out, but I don't know. Look like the good Zach Wilson, not the bad Zach Wilson. And after the game, I'm not going to all of a sudden say like, oh, looks like good Zach Wilson's here to stay. But any given day, it's better to see the good version than the bad version.
Unsurprisingly, Henry, you're being very realistic about what's going to happen here. So I agree. If I'm going to bet money, I'm probably going to go with what you're saying about like, it's probably not going to be the best outing for him. But what I want to see from Zach Wilson is the Zach Wilson we've seen this past week, which is kind of like I've got nothing to lose. I mean, he knows the situation he's in. It's the one you just described. He is clearly the 3rd string quarterback for the Broncos while the other 2 guys are battling for that starting job. And for Zach, he kind of got in this like, screw it. I'm just going to go out there and have fun and try to make plays. And he was that was his best week of practice last week when he kind of went out with that attitude. So I want to see him go out there and play with that attitude because he has 1% chance of winning this starting job in my mind right now. I might put Bo at 75%.
Still that high.
And Jarrett at 24% and Zach Wilson at 1%. So in order for him to turn 1% into 100% and win this starting job, he's got to go out there and just be crazy good. And that's throwing deep balls and taking chances, but hitting on those chances. And you know what, Henry? If he goes out there and takes chances and throws 2 interceptions, at least he tried. If he goes out there and only throws checkdowns, that's not going to change his ability to win this starting job at all. So that's what I hope to see from Zach Wilson. And then it would also make the second half of all of these preseason games a little more entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he can't try to be Jarrett Stidham because he can't be that guy. That's we've learned that much for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he tries to go out there and hit checkdowns, it's going to be a pretty ugly day for him because he doesn't make those quick reads as well as the other quarterbacks do. Like he's got to throw the ball downfield and let things develop because that's just the style of player he is. So yeah, I agree. If he tries to do that stuff, it's going to be ugly.
So who performs better today? In 3 hours, who are we going to be saying that guy had the best game from the Broncos at quarterback?
I mean, I think there's a chance it's Zach Wilson just because like he gets to go out there with the threes and just kind of make things happen downfield. Again, I just think the standard is different for the two guys just based on what we've seen in practice. Like Jarrett Stidham, there are no concerns about whether he can call the plays in the huddle, get everybody lined up right, see what the defense is doing. Like he's got all that stuff down. For him, the game doesn't even really start until the play starts, and that's why like he does such a good job finding those quick completions. It may not be the sexiest outing, but like you said, like I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up completing 70-75% of his passes. Bo Nix just has that lower floor as a rookie, and the things we've seen this week, again, as things become more complicated, he hasn't handled it as well, like you said, as the other quarterbacks have. And so when you have some questions about just getting out of the huddle, getting lined up, I just think that floor is lower, and it's a lot easier to bet on the veteran having a good first preseason game.
Don't disagree with anything you said. But I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb and say Bo Nix does, because you mentioned Zach Wilson playing against the threes. Bo Nix is going to be playing against the twos out there, and I think Bo Nix is a starting quarterback in the NFL, so him going against the twos, I think is just a better situation for him. So I think numbers-wise, we're going to be looking at Bo Nix and saying, damn, Sean has every reason to start him next week, and we know that is the case. Bo Nix is going to start the second preseason game next week against the Packers, and of course, really interesting week coming up, which we're going to break down a lot this coming week. Packers come to town for joint practice this Friday. Henry and I are going to be there just like we've been at every single practice, and then, of course, they play in Denver for Bo Nix's debut in Denver. And for everyone tuning in right now, hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. This show is presented by Henry and me right now. So if you could hit us with a thumbs up, really helps us out. Shows us that you appreciate us doing a little pregame show, especially for the preseason, where there's a lot of names that you need to know. And Henry, let's dive into that. And of course, I also give a shout out to the Toyota Lounge, where we are in the Toyota Lounge here inside the DNVR Bar. Got a watch party going on. So if you want to come swing by the bar to watch this game, watch next week's game, watch any Broncos game, now's the time to do it. Get in your car now. Get in your Toyota and drive down to the Toyota Lounge here inside the DNVR Bar. All right, Henry, outside of quarterbacks, who else does Broncos Country need to know?
There's a whole list, and if you guys want to check it out, I wrote about 12 different guys, and I wrote quite a bit about each of them. It's up on the website right now.
DNVR.com.
I mean, I think you start with the top and say Devin Key. I think that's somebody
who... guy, man.
I know everybody keeps talking about JL Skinner because Caden Stearns is gone, and I love JL. Devin Key's the guy. Like, Devin Key is the one who's making the plays in practice, has, again, been in the league 3 or 4 years now, but is kind of taking that PJ Locke track to where he, to me, I think is a lock to make this team. And this will probably be the first time that any Broncos fan has actually seen him on the field, despite the fact that, yeah, he was on the practice squad last year. I think he was on the Chiefs practice squad for maybe a couple years before that. Just a physical player, again, very similar to PJ Locke. And so keep your eye on number 26, first of all.
Number 26.
Yep.
There you go. Keep your eye on him. And it'll be easy to keep your eye on him because you know why, Henry?
Why?
He's starting this game. Brandon Jones is not playing, of course, dealing with that hamstring injury. PJ Locke and Devin Key starting this game. Then you'll see JL Skinner in there. But, I mean, starting the first preseason game, it's pretty good indication you're going to make the team. And Henry, you've been on Devin Key for a long time, so keep your eye on number 26. I'm going to go with a guy that people know of. I'm going to go with number 37, Audric Estime. This guy's just a monster, and I can't wait to see him in a real game situation where he gets to absolutely maul people. He's going back close to where he played at Notre Dame today, and he is just a beast. But on top of that, Javonte Williams. Everyone knows Javonte Williams. I want to see how Javonte looks in game action. He's lost a little bit of weight. Want to see if he still has that power out there. I know exactly what Jaleel brings. It'll be good to see him. But Audric Estime, want to see if the almost bone-crushing hits that we've seen him deliver in practice, now he's had to let up, if those translate to a game.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to see the speed more than anything. Because again, it's the burst that's kind of the question. The speed is something we know he has. And you look back, multiple 20-mile-per-hour runs at Notre Dame last year. Like, the guy can fly in the open space. You just got to get him out there. So, yeah, I think, to me, outside of the quarterbacks, the running backs probably have the most on the line today, because I mean what the running backs do in training camp does not matter. I mean, maybe there's a couple assignment things, maybe some protection things, but for the most part, it's all about what you do in the preseason games, because nobody tackles in practice, and that's what this game's all about. So Estime is a great one. I think all those guys. I mean, Blake Watson. Tyler Beatty, you probably don't need to pay too much attention to, just because he doesn't really have a path to the team. But I'd imagine we're going to see a lot of Tyler Beatty today, and he's looked awesome in camp too.
I think Tyler Beatty has a better chance of making this team than Blake Watson right now, because he has looked awesome.
But nobody's going to claim him. Like, you just put him on the practice squad again.
Unless he goes out and balls in the preseason, because like you said, he's going to get a lot of run in the preseason.
Definitely, but I think the teams have had their chance at Tyler Beatty for a few years now. I think Blake Watson he was the number one undrafted rookie. And when you look around the league, I've been pretty disappointed in a lot of these third, fourth string running backs that are playing in these preseason games. Like, there are a lot of running backs that aren't good. I think the Broncos' depth should be a lot better than what most of these teams have. And I think that, again, like, if Blake Watson doesn't catch on here, I think somebody's going to want him.
Potentially.
Which, again, he hasn't done anything to take this job. He's another one to watch today.
Number 43, Blake Watson. Keep your eye on him, because I expect him and Tyler Beatty, like you said, to play a lot of the second half. And see what the undrafted guy does, because he does have a lot of talent. On the offensive side, not quite undrafted, but I'm keeping my eyes out for Tim Patrick 2.0.
Oh.
Devon
That's a twist.
Bailey, number 81, rookie out of Utah, almost undrafted like Tim Patrick, 7th round pick. This guy has been balling in training camp. He made that ridiculous catch, the catch of camp last week. And I just want to see if this all translates to the game. I 100% expect it to translate to games for him. But he is a guy who I already think he's a lock to make this team, but he can really solidify that in these preseason games. I've loved what I've seen from Devon Bailey, and I think he is going to end up being a fan favorite, not just for this year, but for years to come, because he is Tim Patrick 2.0, and Tim Patrick has developed into a fan favorite. And Tim Patrick listed as a starting wide receiver for the Broncos. I think Devon Bailey might have an opportunity to overtake that by the end of this season.
Oh, okay. I just go Tim Patrick.
I like that.
I think that he's in 12.
Number 12. The first time we get to see Tim wearing number 12.
He's in a bit of a tough spot. You know, as Sean Payton said, I don't need to see it every day, but I need to see it. And I think we've seen it once. Maybe twice. There was another back behind him catch on a crossing route. You just got to get a little bit more out of Tim Patrick. I think there's a small chance he doesn't even play today. If he doesn't play, then I think he'd be in great position. I think that'd be a good sign for him and his future with the Broncos.
Would be.
And I don't think he needs to do all that much to make the team. But I do think that, again, Sean Payton said, you got to show something. And we're just kind of waiting for that moment from him. So he's among the starters, probably the guy who I'm going to have my eye on the most offensively today.
I like that.
Other than quarterbacks.
I like that. I like that a lot. And we just had our guy RG come in the studio. He's wearing our Pat Surtain shirt. and Pat Surtain does not look like he's going to be playing today. Smart. There was no reason for Pat Surtain to play today, and there's a lot of people in the Toyota chat are saying, just be healthy. Cross your fingers everyone's healthy. And, of course, that is the most important thing to come out of today's game. Probably number 2 is seeing Bo Nix ball out. And then all of these other younger guys on the offense, on the defensive side of the ball. Who else do we need to keep our eye out for, Henry?
Well, no Pat Surtain. You've got Riley Moss and Damari Mathis starting.
Love it.
And so that's
Levi Wallace
one.
either, so those two guys get even more.
Hamstring injury. So big day for them. Again, my money's definitely on Riley Moss based on what we've seen so far, but he hasn't run away with the job.
No,
I wouldn't say
agreed.
Riley Moss is having a great camp, but he's having a solid camp, a good camp, and it's probably a better camp than the other corners, except maybe Levi Wallace. It's just the hamstring injury. When does he come back? What does he miss between now and then? This is kind of the opportunity for Riley to make a run at this starting job, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So I think, again, maybe it's just because we've seen Damari in the past, but when the starting defense is on the field, I'm watching Riley Moss. That's who I'm paying attention to at this first group.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it a ton. And then if we're talking about big position battles on the defensive side, I'm looking at Jonas Griffith and Cody Barton. Those two guys have a lot on the line in these games. I mean, we talked to Vance Joseph at the end of last week. We talked to Sean Payton about it last week as well. This is a toss-up with that inside linebacker job opposite Alex Singleton. I bet both guys play a lot this year, but one of these guys could kind of run away with the job in these preseason games, meaning they could say, I'm the next Josie Jewell, meaning I'm not leaving the field. When Alex Singleton's on the field, I'm on the field as well, instead of doing kind of a mix of those two. So keep your eyes on those guys. Also, it'll be interesting to see Cody in his very first game with the Broncos. And, of course, Jonas had that season-ending injury in training camp last year, so it'll be good to see him back on, too.
And Lavelle Bailey, who
your guy.
I think he's going to start a game this year. I think he's starting a game for the Broncos at some point. Undrafted rookie out of Fresno State.
Number 56.
Yep. He, again, probably because of an injury or something like that, but he is going to be high enough to at least start one game. The question, though, again, you turn on the highlights from his time at Fresno State, and they're awesome. I think he had 3 picks last year, like 8 pass breakups. Super fluid, super good athlete. Especially when they run like that Tampa 2 coverage, he just drops so far. And he's picking off passes where quarterbacks don't think he has any chance of getting that deep. And we've seen that in camp.
Yeah.
Like, he should have 2 interceptions now, but he hasn't been able to hold on to those. So if he gets an opportunity, you'd love to see that. The big thing, though, is he's only 225 pounds. So can he tackle? And we haven't seen him actually try to tackle. There have been a bunch of times where I've seen him one-on-one. Like, there was one where it's just him and Javonte on the edge at the line of scrimmage, and you're like, well, this is kind of a big question for both of them. Who wins this battle? And we just don't get those answers in training camp. Today we get those answers. And I think if Lavelle Bailey, I've written this a couple of times, if he doesn't miss a tackle in the preseason, he's making this team. And today's the first day to kind of show that he's capable of that.
Yep, I love it. And Hank, I think we've hit really your guys, Devon Key and Lavelle Bailey. I want to hit 2 more, and I'll start with this one. A lot of people in the Twitter chat saying JL Skinner. We touched on him because of Devon Key. This is a guy that has taken a massive step from last year, where he was a practice squad or a scout team guy, to now he is a player in the NFL. He has an opportunity to be the Broncos' backup. I mean, him and Devon Key, like you said, Devon Key might have that leg up right now, but he has an opportunity to beat him out for that job. JL Skinner is the size of Steve Atwater, 6'4", 220 pounds, and we all know how good Steve is. I'm not saying JL's anywhere close to as good as Steve was, obviously, but that big safety just doesn't really exist in the NFL anymore. And JL Skinner's trying to bring it back. So I'm excited to see him out on the field today.
Definitely. And I think people think of him as like a box player. That's, in my opinion, not really the way the Broncos have developed him. They want him to be the deep guy in the middle of the field. Like, you think of the Justin Simmons body type, that's where they see him. The lanky, long legs, long arms. Like, the 40 time may not be as crazy as you'd think for a guy who's playing that single high in the middle of the field, but because you have those long arms, it kind of makes up for all that. You think back to like Cam Chancellor, I guess, did some of that, but those sorts of guys. So definitely a big day for him. He's another guy who has a good chance to get a start at some point this season if things go well. I'll throw Reese Taylor out there.
Love that.
Just incredible camp so far. Incredible. Plays the nickel. If Riley's the starter, he's going to be your backup nickel behind Jaquan. And he's doing all the same things Jaquan does. He blitzes, he blows up runs in the backfield, he gets sacks from the backfield. He's another one, should have a couple picks. I think his only pick has come in one-on-ones, but he's gotten his hand on balls. So, that's another guy who you definitely should be keeping an eye on and has a real chance to make the team.
And the last guy I'm going to throw out there, I don't need to see anything from him except staying healthy, but Broncos Country is going to be stoked to see him out there. Greg Dulcich. I mean, he has been great. The speed, he looks like even better than a third-round pick, and he just needs to stay healthy. So keep your eyes on number 80. You won't miss him if they throw him the ball. He's going to be flying. He's going to be just tearing up grass, running past defenders. And Henry, I can't wait for it. We're going to be back after the game.
Okay.
Hit me with one.
Oh, okay. So Nate Adkins.
Love it.
The other time, he's going to be on the field a bunch. He's catching so many passes. They
Number
wear the
45.
Yeah, they wear the vests. And Lucas Kroll said that he's hitting the top speed for the tight ends every day. And then finally, Thomas Incoom, Drell, and Chami.
Love it.
The two edge rushers who I'm curious to see who they work with because they don't look like third stringers.
Especially Thomas Incoon,
Yep.
a guy that's had more sacks than anyone else on this roster. We're going to be back. Game starting in just a couple of minutes. We're going to be back right after the game. Maybe we'll even start a little before the game's over, so make sure to stay tuned to YouTube and our channel right around maybe 1:45, 2 p.m. Denver time. We're going to be breaking down everything. And also make sure to stay tuned to DNVR Broncos Twitter account where we're going to be throwing some questions out during the game and want your answers. Thank you all so much for kicking off the Broncos preseason, the Bo Nix era with us, and can't wait to talk to you all right after the game ends. We'll see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.